Welcome to Afterthoughts with Kaylee and
Tiana.
And we've got the girls today. I'm very excited.
Yeah, so my dad, Pastor Gary Swaby, is the one who spoke on Sunday, and he couldn't be here to film Afterthoughts, so I am here in lieu of him. If you didn't know that was my dad, that's right. I used to be Tiana Swaby, and some of you knew me at that time when I was a Swaby. And so he talked about the Beatitudes and brokenness. That was the theme of the message. And so we are going to dive a little bit more into the Beatitudes with our Afterthoughts this week.
Yeah.
And my first thought was the word blessed. And so for me, many years growing up, I often just was like, I'm going to be happy. That's what I'm going to be happy. That's what blessed means. Feeling blessed, right? Never stressed. Isn't that the song?
Right. Oh, wow.
Anyways, so our first question right off the hop here for you guys is, how would you define the word blessed or blessing? You should talk about that in your groups. So in some digging that I've done over in the last few years, as well as chatting with Aiden, and we've talked to the youth about this word blessed and blessing. And a better word for it for our brains today might actually be the word flourishing or like you will flourish when kind of these things. Cool. And so diving into a few thoughts about it, when you go all the way back even into the garden, the tree of life was meant to bring blessing, right? And it was that God sharing his life producing ability with his people. And so the abundant life, all of that is wrapped up in blessing, and it all is founded in trusting in God's best way to live, that will be the result. It's like the natural result of trusting in God's wisdom and his way of living that we find ourselves blessed.
Cool.
And that's kind of the deeper meaning of that there.
Yeah.
But the tricky part with these Beatitudes is that the blessing in the second half of each Beatitude is often what we are pursuing, right? Actually, instead of the first part.
Yeah.
And so we might look at the second half there and be like, I want to be comforted. And so we're just trying to find comfort instead of pausing in our own like mourning the things that we're realizing need the comfort, like focusing on that first half.
Totally.
And so I thought it was really interesting when you look at it that way, like some of those, like some people just want mercy, but they don't want to give mercy, right?
I remember even as a teenager, the first time I read this, I was like, okay, cool. Like I can be a peacemaker. That's like pretty achievable. And then like as the primary thing, because I was like, oh man, I don't know if I want to seek the other. Yeah.
And you know what I found when I was looking at this, when I opened my Bible, I found this sheet. This is just fun to share with you. This sheet here is from when I was part of Grow, the moms group, and it's dated 2014. So this is 10 years ago, and it says Eunice Duncan 2014. So she provided us with this sheet, and we went through actually the Lord's Prayer and the questions that God asked Adam and Eve in the garden and the Beatitudes and how they all, like, if you can overlay them and there's like themes. Cool. It was really cool. But I won't go into all of that. But the part I thought might be fun to look at is the first 4 Beatitudes. You can actually line up beside the second 4. And we looked at how the first 4 are kind of like stage 1 or like early realizations, and the second 4 are like stage 2, and they line up. So like the poor in spirit, coming open and empty to God, then you're able to be merciful because you've understood the mercy you receive from God. And being honest for God leads you to being lenient to other people is kind of the notes I have here. And same with the meek, like meekness being like controlled power. So whatever influence you have, but controlling it wisely, and not, bulldozing your way through people, even though you could, but coming under God's care. And then how that leads to being a peacemaker, you're able to understand peace. And so they kind of flow into each other, and we look through that. So cool. I don't know if there was a question in there, but I just thought it was fun as I looked back at the sheet and how we had like dove into this. I was like, oh yeah, reminded of this like really intensive that we did in the Beatitudes and some of the, so that could be fun. I don't know if people want to to look at maybe that's on your own time later or in the group, but looking at how the first 4 kind of line up beside. And then they're bookended by the kingdom, like receiving the kingdom.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Those are my initial thoughts.
I like it. I like it a lot.
We didn't talk before we met, so we're giving our first impressions to each other, and you get to witness it. Yeah.
No, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Even what you said about, kind of the first and the second portions makes me think that could be another question easily within a group. Just even as you look at each beatitude separately, going like, man, I struggle to long to be somebody, who mourns, right? Or I struggle being merciful, or it's not innate for me to feel poor in spirit or to want to feel poor in spirit. To acknowledge that that's like a divine alignment. And so maybe even it would be cool to discuss in your group which of these stands out to you, maybe even as like a lesser appealing.
Yeah, or least natural.
Yeah, least natural.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. A thought I had was in relationship to the word broken and brokenness that your dad has unpacked. When I think about being broken, I kind of think of 2 elements. I think of vulnerability and I think of dependency. My personality has a pretty easy time being vulnerable, but I have a harder time being dependent and feeling like that's
100% me too.
That's okay. And so, and some people might find it the opposite. They might find it way harder to be vulnerable and maybe easier to be dependent. I'd be curious, in light of those kind of 2 descriptors of sitting in a broken place or feeling broken, where do you resist one or the other? So where do you resist dependency on Christ, or where do you resist even vulnerability with him and his people? That'd be my last question.
It makes me think of a song lyric, actually. Oh. There's, Andrew Peterson, who wrote the Wing Feather Saga. I think our kids. Yes. So he's a musician, long before he wrote those books, and he has lots of albums. And his lyrics are incredible to like think about and dwell on. And that's actually what made me buy the books, because I was like, man, if he can make lyrics like this for music, I bet you his books will be incredible. And so, anyways, he has this one song. I can't remember the title of it. Sorry if you wanted to look it up. But maybe you can ask me later if you're really interested, and I'll find it. But there's this title or a line in the song, and it says, "It's only when the straight line breaks and heals a little crooked that you ever see the grace." And just, I remember that really hitting me one day when I thought I was frustrated with feeling broken.
Yeah.
But then it was like, as I was talking to God about it, I all of a sudden turned into gratitude of like, if I never felt broken, I would never feel his grace.
Totally.
And I would never feel the need. And so then I was actually thankful for that moment of feeling broken and in need. And it was like a bit of an aha moment, even kind of that, I do feel and understand your care and love for me more deeply because of my brokenness. And wow, I'm thankful for that.
Totally. And even that feeling of being restored, like how much more do you then hunger for restoration for you and the people around you, right? That feeling of like, oh, it got made whole again. I got made whole again. I like that quote. Can you say that one more time?
It's only when the straight line breaks and heals a little crooked that we ever see the grace.
That's cool. Very cool. Do you have any more questions for anybody?
It's more of a, I don't know if it's a group question, but a reflective question. And the question is, what do you want? Like from the second half of each beatitude, like what is it you long for, whether it's comfort or to see God or to really have that I'm a child of God sink in. And are you willing to pursue the first half actually in order to get there?
To see the fruit.
Yeah. So you can be vulnerable and discuss that in your group if you want, or take that home to think about later.
Well, thanks for joining us. I'm Kaylee.
I'm Tiana.
And this was Afterthoughts.